Hello, everybody, and welcome to Health Confidential with Simone Gisondi, the podcast where the secrets of the body meet the mysteries of healing. Each week, I explore the powerful world of holistic medicine, blending ancient wisdom and cutting edge science, conventional insight, and unconventional truths to decode some of the toughest cases and the most misunderstood conditions. I'm a certified holistic cancer therapies practitioner, a registered holistic nutritionist, and certified regenerative detoxification specialist. I am not a medical doctor. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The diagnosis and therapies discussed here may not be right for you. Please consult a qualified healthcare medical provider before making changes to your health. To learn more about my work or to experience the power of the custom-made healing protocols that I develop, designed specifically for your unique body, your unique biochemistry, your history, and your internal terrain, visit simonegisondi.com and book a private consultation with me. And if this episode speaks to you, follow me on Instagram at simone.gisondi and share this episode with someone you love. Thank you for listening. And welcome to today's episode of Health Confidential. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Health Confidential. Let me tell you, there are moments in life when the teacher who shaped your entire path, entire existence out of the pages, out of the lectures, out of the videos that I've watched him on, has met me face to face today in conversation. So today is one of those moments of absolute ecstasy for me because you get to meet the one who mentored me and put me on the path that you guys get to enjoy me on. So I have the profound honor of welcoming the man whose work cracked open my entire understanding of healing, not just as biochemistry, but as profound truth, sovereignty, and literally soul intelligence, because he talked at length about spirituality. So his teachings guided me back to life, I would say, after my stroke and after the medical system destroyed me. And I could say without hesitation that his wisdom became one of the cornerstones of my own healing. And the reason why I'm here today is because of what he teaches and what he has taught. So if you've ever heard me speak about the lymphatic system and my work with you guys, my clients, or even on anything on Instagram or on my podcast, or about the internal terrain, detoxification, regeneration, or even the simplicity of letting the body heal itself, then you've already felt his influence moving through me and my words and my work. So today, I finally get to share my amazing mentor with you all. So this is a conversation with the one and only Dr. Robert Morse. Let me tell you a little bit about him, so stay with me. He is a board-certified naturopathic doctor, a biochemist, a master herbalist. That's right. He wears many hats, and one of the most influential natural healers of our time, a pioneer whose work has actually redefined detoxification. And I don't say that lightly because I've studied detoxification from other people. He's also redefined lymphatic healing and, most importantly, cellular regeneration. He's done this for over 50 years, so over 5 decades. And he's done this through his clinical experience. He has guided thousands upon thousands of clients out of pain, chronic illness, degenerative conditions, and fear, myself included. And he's done that through simple, powerful, nature-based principles that are deeply, deeply rooted in the intelligence of the human body. And I don't say that lightly. In fact, for those of you that are familiar with Dr. Bernard Jensen, who is the founder of the science of iridology, that man, who was prolific in his time, has called Dr. Morse one of the world's greatest healers. And I believe that wholeheartedly from the depth of me. He is also the founder of the International School of the Healing Arts and a master of regenerative detox. His work bridges ancient vitality, so he speaks the language of the ancients, spiritual physiology, and he will talk about that, and you will hear it in his words. And of course, our modern day crisis of toxicity, because there's so much toxicity in the world. His approach is grounded in a simple but very radical truth that if you remove obstruction and you restore flow and you honor the lymphatic system, bigger than the circulatory system, I learned that from him, you will let the body heal itself because the body knows exactly how to heal itself. So he is, you guys, without any exaggeration, a living legend in the world of natural healing. Dr. Morse, welcome to my show.
I couldn't live that down. Sweetheart.
I so appreciate you being here, Dr. Morse.
Always, always. That's what my gig is in this lifetime, is to help you all on the human race to not only become awake, but also to help heal their physical bodies so they can have a little more fun while on this rock spinning through space.
That's right. That's right. But tell us, Dr. Morse, for listeners that are discovering you for the first time and those that have lived under a rock for their entire life, how did your journey into detoxification, into herbalism, and the lymphatic system begin?
Well, I was raised in farming communities. We had farms, and I was raised kind of that way. And after I got out of the Air Force, I came down. Of course, we had a lot of milk and a lot of meat, stuff like that, and I grew up with migraines and all kinds of stuff. And I came down to Florida because my dad had built a house on an island out here, and we've been coming down every year, and I love this place, and it just fit with the Homo sapiens, since Homo sapiens are frugivores, and I've just loved it. And I was building me a duplex. I wanted to build a complete house by myself. And I hired this carpenter off the beach, and one day he threw a book down, and it was Herbert Shelton's book on fasting, rational fasting and things. And I'm looking at it and reading it, and it says no animal cooks their food before they eat it. And I'm thinking, well, that makes sense, and just little Zen truths here and there. And so I got really interested in it. I've always loved fruit. And then within that community are some fruitarian thinkers like Dr. Carrington and things. And it just hit with common sense. The Homo sapien is a frugivore anatomically and physiologically, and it just fit. And so I actually went into the woods and became a hermit for about 3 years and lived only on oranges. And what I experienced was amazing, to say the least.
I remember doing that. So for those of you that know me, I actually had a stroke, and I hesitate to use the word had a stroke because it's not like I took it, but I went through this medical event that they call stroke back when I was 35. And one of my really good friends put me on the work of Dr. Robert Morse. And I remember, Dr. Morse, when I started doing the fruits, it was, of course, probably also owing to the fact that I was so young, the healing came so quickly. My mind was sharp because I was just in a brain fog from all the medications they had pumped into me in the hospital. And I remember just how quickly everything came online. It was nothing short of miraculous, literally.
Yeah, it's amazing. I couldn't stay in my body, but I was also interested in out-of-body travels.
Yes.
So that just fit. And I couldn't stay in my body. I had so much energy, I couldn't stand it. I could cut myself. It wouldn't bleed, wouldn't hurt, would be gone the next day. And then other fruitarian practitioners like Arnold Ehret had done the same thing.
Yes.
And I knew what it took to heal people. When you can cut yourself, it doesn't hurt, it doesn't bleed, and it's gone the next day, you found the path of true healing. And that's what I discovered. And I after I came out of the woods, I wondered what I was going to do. And so I opened up health food store, and then I got my naturopathic degree and went from there. And but what triggered this whole thing was living in a van. I had to pee at night, of course, and there was no bathroom in my van. And so I used a little glass to pee in. And every morning I would wake up and there'd be sediment in the bottom of this glass.
Yes.
And I'm young. I don't know any better. So I'm thinking, oh man, look, I detoxed pretty good last night. A lot of stuff in that urine, right? And then some nights, not so much. Well, as I become a biochemist and a naturopath and started doing blood work and urinalysis, a lot of these urinalyses were coming back clear. And I'm thinking to myself, why would anybody have clear urine for? And then it dawned on me what the problem was. That man's lymphatic system uses the kidneys as eliminative organs, and that the kinetic waste from activity, whether it's metabolism or what from the cells, have to be eliminated because they're acids. And
Mhm.
medical doctors, I don't know where they live. They feel that the body reabsorbs and moves these acids around through the blood. And understanding chemistry and blood pHs, you can't alter blood pH without losing calcium. And so it all fit. And so then I started working on people's lymphatic systems. I developed herbal formulas to help me do that.
Yes.
And pretty soon I'm having success on all levels. And then in the fruit, you regenerate neurologically. I learned that vegetables do not regenerate the Homo sapien neurologically. So you come to me with MS, Lou Gehrig's, you're in a wheelchair, your spinal cord injury. I was getting them up out of the chairs and getting them walking and everything else, and people were freaking out over that. And I just thought I was a natural part of healing.
Which it is indeed, because I've seen a lot of the testimonials and a lot of the people. I mean, for those of you that don't know, please join the Facebook groups because people are so vocal about everything, and myself included. This is why I wanted
Yeah,
to have this show so that I can have my own testimonial of how quickly I healed and what I used as my tools, which is of course regenerative detoxification when I was coming back from my from the stroke, especially because after I was in the hospital, just the medications alone that they put in me, which were suppressing my own systems from healing, those also had to be detoxified out of my system, as well as what had been there added metabolically over the years. So but Dr. Morse, you teach that healing is simple and that if you remove obstructions and you restore the flow and you support the cells, why do you believe that the lymphatic system is the missing key in our modern health? I mean, the medicine just doesn't ever talk about the lymphatic system, ever.
ever, ever. When you think about it and you keep it real simple, the body's nothing but about 75 to 100 trillion cells, depending on what it is. So no matter where you go to, fingers, fingernails, hair,
That's right.
brain, nervous system, right? Liver, ovaries, it doesn't matter where you are. You're talking about a group of cells, tissues, they call it, but it's a group of cells. And
Hmm.
then those cells are taken care of by only two major fluids. There's only two major fluids of the human body: blood, right? And we can call blood the kitchen, and then you have a sewer system in the body. They call it the immune system. That's the lymphatic system. But they don't know what the lymphatic system's for because they never tied the kidneys and the skin to the lymphatic system. And the lymphatic system is your sewer system of the body. Simple. You got a house, you have a kitchen and a bathroom in it. You have a car, you have a kitchen and a bathroom in your car. You have an exhaust system. So all ingestion for all species, except some of the carnivores, are as an alkaline input. And when you tie this together, there's only a bunch of cells, two fluids, and two sides of chemistry. And each fluid deals with
That's right.
one side of chemistry, and the other fluid deals with the other side. It's that simple. And when you understand the nature of what's called alkaline or base chemistry, which is the blood, then you understand the nature of the acid side of chemistry. You start seeing why we have symptomology the way we have it, why there is the immune response inflammation, and why the body's doing that. And when you put it all together, it's real simple to understand, and it empowers you, no matter what age you are, to heal. Like you healed yourself.
I
You
did.
did it. You've been to the best experts and they didn't even know squat. And yet you took it on yourself. You understood the simplicity of healing, and it's tied to the simplicity of chemistry. Sometimes people freak out when you say chemistry and physics. No, you can keep it all simple and understand how everything works because there's only two sides, yin and yang, two sides to everything. And those two sides of chemistry is responsible for every chemical reaction and action there is. And that is everything on this planet and in this physical world.
So then, Dr. Morse, what blocks the lymphatic system in people the most today, and why are we seeing such an explosion of chronic illness? I mean, medicine supposedly does so much research and throws so much money into doing studies,
That's
and
and
yet we are sicker than we've ever been, and all diseases are through the roof.
well, I've attended some of the medical symposiums, worldwide symposiums on the lymphatic system, and the best you get is that the lymphatic system is there to buffer blood proteins because the blood doesn't want proteins. So, and the capillaries won't allow proteins back into the blood. So it's all scooted off to the lymphatic system. Now, your blood is a water-based system, fluid. Your lymphatic system is a lipid, a cholesterol-based fluid. And that's because it deals with acids, and acids are corrosive. And when you study acids, they're what we call cationic. In other words, acids tear things apart, rip things apart, but they also agglomulate. They make things coagulate together. So the real issue here and why man suffers is the kidneys. The kidneys, you have a right kidney and a left kidney. Your right kidney filters the waste from all the cells from your head to your little toe on the right side. Your left kidney filters the waste from your left side of the brain to your left toes. All those wastes are acids. All your kinetic wastes are acids. A good example, you go to the gym, you work out, the next day you feel a little stiff and sore. That's acids. You created a lot of acids. So the question is, are you removing the acids that your cells are creating? Now, just as a quick look, this is the lymphatic system in just one finger.
Wow.
It is so in depth. And each cell has to eliminate. Each cell in your body consumes and eliminates, just like a little baby, just like we do, just like your car does. You have to feed it fuel, but then you have waste. And fuel is generally alkaline in nature, which is carbon. So fruits, berries, melons, vegetables, those are the food sources for not only frugivores, herbivores, and omnivores, but they're essential to keeping the blood pH appropriate. Then your byproducts from the metabolism and the oxidation of all this chemistry, they're acids. And acids have to leave or you start feeling pain, swelling, soreness, and in time you break down cells, and then they use the word cancer, of course, when your cell is broken down to a certain point. And all it is a stagnant lymph system. Well, your question earlier relates to what blocks this system, and it is kidney weakness. All you have to do is pee in a jar, and if your urine is clear, you're in trouble. Your urine should have a lot of filtration in it, a lot of waste or what we call sediment in it. And protein diets are destructive to kidney tissue. The World Health Organization has done, 30-some studies proving that these high-protein diets that humans are on have destroyed the GI tract of humans. The colon cancer has been linked to protein diets for years. But what they're not looking at is the damage to kidney tissue. So all these proteins, and we're frugivores, we're not designed to eat high-protein diets. Here's a quick example. Mother's milk, human mother's milk, 7% sugar, 3% fat, and less than 1% protein. And yet they're pushing these high-protein diets. And, of course, when you put proteins into the blood, your blood pH starts to go down. Your blood steals calcium out of its basement layer of connective tissue to bring that pH up, or death is imminent. And so then you start to see bruising easy. You see varicose veins, spider veins, hernias, aneurysms, prolapsing of tissues. You start to see all that which exists from that.
Yes. And actually, on that note, speaking of calcium, and I wanted you to speak to this because I work with a lot of women, postpartum depression, a lot of.
Oh, man.
Which is so terrible.
There's a lot of pituitary weaknesses in this world because of sinus and milk drinking, dairy products and things, clog the sinuses up and the lungs up. Well, the transverse colon in your bowel also relates to your head and your sinuses. So people's colons are in bad shape from all the white flour products, the gluey products, the cheeses, and the proteins. Well, that's also put a stress in the sinuses. Well, most people have pituitary issues. If you're short or you're tall, you've got pituitary problems. Well, the pituitary is the master endocrine gland. And there in the throat, everybody's heard of the thyroid, but few people have heard of the parathyroids. And there's 4 parathyroids and 2 thyroids. On each side, you have 2 parathyroids and a thyroid. parathyroid's hormones is how you utilize calcium. So when you have a pituitary weakness, it can suppress the parathyroid and thyroid and all the other endos, and then you can't utilize calcium, even though you might be taking it. You might be, getting it out of your foods. Also, you could have a parathyroid weakness on its own, just from the type of diets that man's on. Man is predominantly eating what we call acid ash foods, foods that have an acid reaction in the body. That's not the food of frugivores, herbivores, or omnivores. We need an alkaline ash. That's what in physics that's called an electron high ash, and that's electrical. That's essential. But we're eating acid ash. We're stripping the body of its nutrients instead of giving the body nutrients.
Yeah, and I speak to the entire idea of dairy with a lot of people because we are the only species on the planet that consumes the milk of another species when in fact milk is only made for the young for their own growth. And when I hear people that have cancer that drink milk or eat cheese, it's so full of what is actually going to grow things that it's like you're trying to grow your cancer.
You're right. You can have a tumor and drink a glass of milk and almost watch that tumor grow. It's that bad. And like you said, we're the only species that actually drinks milk after we're weaned. And also another species milk, which when you look at the chemistry of a cow's milk, totally different than the chemistry of humans' mother's milk. So it's just totally whoppy-jawed. And whenever you start seeing a more higher protein ingestion, whether it's beans, grains, or animal meats, that's when you start seeing serious problems. And another great example of that, look at the difference between Eskimos or those living in Alaska that hunt and eat a lot of meat and those that are islanders. Because we get a lot of islanders because we're herbalists, right? So we get islanders in their hundreds, but you look at an Eskimo, they always have teeth problems. They always have, they're wrinkled really bad and they're only in their 50s and 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And you get islanders in here. I've had islanders, like I said, in their hundreds. Their original teeth, their skin looks like a bare baby's butt, no wrinkles, and they were raised on fruit.
And they're exposed to the sun.
Yep, and they're close to the sun.
That's right.
Yep.
And to add to what you said about the milk, Dr. Morse, because whenever I talk to my clients, I tell them, so the nutritional profile, aside from just the chemical profile or the chemistry profile of the milk, imagine the cow is an animal that gets in the upper hundreds to probably 1,500 pounds. We don't get past, let's say, 200 pounds for a man. Let's be generous here. So the nutritional profile in the sense of the ratios of the macronutrients in that milk are not conducive to our growth. It's conducive to an animal that is of that size. So it's just from a common sense perspective, it just doesn't add up. But yet there's an industry out there that wants to monetize this to the degree that not only are we paying with money, but we're paying with our health too.
Yeah. Well, I've got a new book coming out. It's a video book on tissue regeneration. And I'm going back 20 million years with anthropology showing that the Homo sapien is indeed a frugivore. I've got an A&P professor helping me write that part of it. And it's a great book to show you that sort of thing. And we have a whole section on different mother's milks of frugivores, which is the primates and the humans, then the herbivores, which is your cows, your horses, your elephants, and then also the omnivores, dogs, hogs, bears, and birds, and shows you the different milks and the ratios. And it brings it home that we're not even goat's milk is far away from Homo sapien milk. And I used to recommend in my earlier years, women that couldn't breastfeed, I would recommend organic goat's milk for their babies, just because that's just how we were brought up. Dr. Jensen, as you mentioned, a great friend of mine, he wrote a book on goat's milk. He had goats at his place, and he was drinking goat's milk to the day he died. I said, Doc, no.
It's I think it's the lesser of the two evils that are out on the market, because a lot of people say, well, you could actually digest that easier. So it's easier, but it's not necessarily easy, period. So, but Dr.
Even coconut milk is not the same. No, I've looked at all the nut milks. I've looked at all of this, and none of them match Homo sapien milk. And the other issue with Homo sapien milk is when you eat an acid ash diet full of proteins, your milk becomes acidic. Well,
To the
milk
baby.
can't be acidic
Yeah.
because your ingestion always has to be on the alkaline side of chemistry. That matches the blood pH. And when you eat acidically, that again goes back to lowering the blood pH, fighting the pHs in the body. And of course, then you lose your teeth enamel at 5.5. And so that's right around where most meat is, about 5.5 pH. And you lose your teeth enamel at that. And that's
Oh, and
not, we play with threes and twos. Chemotherapy is 1.5 to 2,
yes.
totally destroys cells of the human body. These people are crazy. They're nuts, criminal.
I often tell people, imagine putting a battery acid in your veins, which is just
Exactly.
literally what they do to you because this concoction just kills
Exactly.
indiscriminately and it damages. It's an acid. So if you're willing to put acid on your hand and the skin is much more resilient, how does it make sense that you would put it in a vein?
Well, most chemotherapy is 1.5 to 2 pH, and I've had nursing in my life. I've had to learn IV therapy and all this in my world, and so they show you pictures of what happens when you spill chemotherapy on the skin. And
Yes.
people know that when someone throws acid on your face, like you're walking down New York City or some street, and someone throws acid in your face, what it looks like, strips your skin off. Just think, you're putting that in your body for what reason? Because they don't understand the lymphatic system. That's your main immune system. So this is why everything is autoimmune. Your immune system is going nuts, and we're going to put it full of acids to kill these cells. It catches all the cells. And it's like when you understand what you're doing. Back when I started in the early 70s, of 100 people that went into chemo, only 4 to 5 at most walked out. And in these chemo studies, I had a guy that was in a big chemo study of 420 people, and they're all over the place. And he had a lymphoma, and they were scared. His wife heard about me. I cleaned him up, no lymphoma left, and all that. And the nurse saw him several years later and said, "Hey, I remember you. You were in this chemo study." And she said, "Well, you're alive." He said, "Well, yeah, I don't have lymphoma anymore." And she said, "Well, everybody in the study's dead." Well, they do. Most
Wow.
everybody in these studies die. It's like, no, they're living on the wrong side of chemistry, and I don't know why they got fixated with that. Plus, you know that already, that the whole theory of disease is bullcrap. The whole
Oh,
theory of the 17th century theory, and it holds no water. Then you got Pasteur's theory of the germ. Worked out great for Rockefeller and pharmaceutical companies because
yeah.
now you make a ton of money on something you don't know what causes it. It's not curable, but it's very treatable.
Of course, it's good for business, that's for sure. But what
Great for
drives me
business.
crazy, and I wanted to ask you this, Dr. Morse, because of course you're credentialed and you're board certified, and I really want people to understand this because I hear it even on social media when they say we all produce cancer cells. And I don't subscribe to that. What I don't think that there is anything. It's a normal, healthy cell that becomes a cancer cell, if you will, if you want to
Exactly.
give it that particular label, but we don't naturally just produce what is called a
No,
cancer cell,
no,
nor
no,
have
no.
we ever, nor will we ever.
Well, again, the word cancer is just a word they use as a fear word.
Yes.
In pathology, it's a degraded cell. Before it's a dubbed a cancer cell, it's what we call an atypical cell. A lot of women have pap smears, comes back with atypical cells. That simply means those cells are on the road to decay and becoming what they would call a cancer cell, which is a highly degraded cell. All right, what causes that? And they can't answer that because simply if a cell in the uterus or ovaries or in your lungs or liver becomes a cancer cell, they just think that cell went wacko. And it's like, no, they didn't go wacko. Something has, life is chemistry, and there's only two sides of it. So which side of chemistry destroys cells? And you always come back to the acid side of chemistry, and that takes you right into the lymphatic system. And of course, they dub everything a lymphoma. An autoimmune, since the lymphatic system is your main immune system. But that's where they stop. They don't understand the kidney and the fact that acids have to be eliminated outside of the body. You don't hold acids in the body, or you see the word inflammation. Your body's going to try to defend itself against acids because acids will destroy the cells. No question.
Of course, the body is always trying to get itself back to homeostasis. Yeah. But Dr. Morse, I want people to also understand the other side. And I remember you talked at length about it. I mean, I've watched thousands upon thousands of hours of your videos. When you were allowed to be on YouTube, you no longer are. But I know that you've moved your platform. But I want people to understand this. You said that, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing here, that emotions also create chemistry. How do emotional blockages contribute to physical stagnation?
Very important question. And I'll just give you one quick case. And this was a Lou Gehrig's case, chiropractor's wife. She was wheelchair bound, of course, and all this. I had her up walking in 5 months. And she had a stroller to help her, though. But I still had her up walking. She was from Slovakia, I think. And she had to go over and she wanted to visit her parents and things. But her and her dad had this. They just didn't like each other this lifetime. Two souls that needed to depart from each other. And I talked to her spiritually about that. And I said, no, you don't want to go over there because your emotions are a whole different body. They're not, your physical body does not have emotions. What they call your astral body does. And your astral body is linked to your adrenal glands. And that's your emotional glands. It's your adrenal glands, and they sit right on top of the kidneys. They not only control kidney function, but they deal with mineral metabolism, sugar metabolism, your gonadals, your sexual hormones, all these things like this. They're big deals, but they deal with your emotions. And she went over and came back and couldn't walk anymore, because that emotional just shut down her adrenals. Well, when you shut down your adrenals, you're shutting down your autonomic nervous system, because your adrenal glands produces the neurotransmitters for your autonomic nervous system. Your autonomic nervous system runs your breathing, your heart, peristalsis. It's your duality nervous system. You have two, central and autonomic. And you don't think about breathing unless your autonomic is shut down, and then you struggle to breathe. You have to constantly think, breathe, or out you go. And then so a lot of these neurotoxins people get into from vaccines and stuff shut down this system, and then they have asthma, and it moves right on into COPD. They have all kinds of problems because of all that is like that. So your emotions is everything. And this getting into the spiritual side of things, because you come in this lifetime with the emotional patterns from last lifetimes. And so you don't sometimes know or realize that you could be holding on something very serious that you experienced in the last life, and you're holding it this lifetime. So we try to get that open, because if your adrenal glands don't open, it's an emotional issue. And that's a whole nother level. Just like the mind is a whole nother level outside of that. The brain is not your mind. That's a whole nother level of creation.
So this speaks to the fact that we don't just have the physical body, but we also have an emotional body.
Very much so.
Yes.
And a mental body.
And a mental body, and they all work hand in hand. Because I try to tell, I work with a few clients that are afflicted with cancer, and I try to tell them that the last frontier is the physical body. That's the last frontier. And I know the medical system never speaks to anything previous to the physical body, so that they could actually address the emotional trauma, especially because a lot of times, so Dr. Morse, I have a client, I remember speaking with her, and I talk about this on my social media. She did not have a very harmonious relationship with her husband. So that's the emotional part. And one day I had a session with her, and I asked her, tell me how you're doing, what's been going on. And she said, oh, you're going to be so disappointed in me. I ate a pound of chocolate-covered almonds last night. And I said, oh my goodness, what happened? And why did you do that? So she said, I got into a big fight with my husband, and and it made me feel better to eat that. Is that okay? So I
Yeah.
just want people to understand that when you have an emotional component, you're going to tie it to your physical component, because a lot of people do a lot of emotional eating, or they turn to addictions of substances, or they become addicted to food. There's food addictions as well, or other things, pornography or anything that takes from the mind and the emotion, and it leads you to doing something to your physical body. And I see
Yep.
this all the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Nothing, you have to understand it. Nothing can exist in the physical world that doesn't have an emotional body. And I'm talking plants,
That's
rocks,
right.
animals. They all have emotions. Plants have emotions. Been
Mm-hmm.
well proved. If you ever read Secret Life of Plants, and other professors are working with plants and their emotions, all life comes down through the heavens like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Eastern, they call it levels or states of consciousness. Christianity, Jesus said, "My Father's mansion has many rooms, many levels to it." And
That's
so
right.
you just have to understand that you're not the physical body. You're not even your emotional body. You're using these vehicles, these bodies, to experience duality in creation. That's not you. And you only know that a lot of times when you can get away from your emotions, get away from thought. And I teach people to stop thinking, live in the now where you're more conscious. Using the mind is like a pair of binoculars. You use a pair of binoculars everywhere you put your attention, but the binoculars is what you see. When you put the binoculars down, suddenly you see everything.
That's
And
right.
that's exactly what it is spiritually. But we are tied to these so intertwined that you think the brain, the physical body is your emotions and thoughts and everything, and it is not. And once you learn how to have simple out of body experiences, you can travel in these different worlds. You can travel in the astral world. You can travel in the mental world. And that's when you really get a view to the fact that the physical body is just an organic chemical body. It's all made of chemistry, five basic senses, and it's nothing compared to your other levels.
That's right, or especially the consciousness itself.
Oh, yeah.
And in
Well, that
in that
too.
regard, Dr. Morse, and there's also Dr. Gabor Mate that talked at length about it. It's mostly women who are afflicted with what the medical world ends up calling, autoimmune or other diseases, including cancer, actually, because a lot of women are the ones who have struggles with the emotional aspect of themselves, or of who they are, for lack of a better term. So, a lot of women today, and many of which that I work with, struggle with reproductive inflammation, and even things like the human papilloma virus, so HPV. So, from a terrain perspective, what is happening in the body so that people can, especially women, can understand? And when I talk about HPV, Dr. Morse, I'm talking about young girls. I
Oh, yeah, I
remember
know.
there were a couple who said that they had never been sexually active, but they got injected with the Gardasil vaccine.
Yep.
And then subsequent to that, they were diagnosed with HPV.
Oh,
And
my.
then I have women who are in their 60s or in their 50s or in their 40s even, who write to me to say, I've been in a monogamous relationship. I've been married to my husband for the last 21, 25 years, whatever it may be. And I just had an abnormal pap smear. They told me that I'm HPV positive, and it's one of those that leads to cancer, the 16 or whatever numbers 18 that they give to these things. And this woman said, and the doctors are telling me that my husband was probably with another woman, and he passed it on to me. It's crazy what's out there.
Well, let me get to the first part of that is that the woman is the lover. If you
Yes.
had to look at two sides of chemistry, the woman is the alkaline side of chemistry, and the male is the acid side of chemistry. Men love
Yes.
war. That's how they settle things. They're the aggressive side of chemistry. The woman is the lover. If you don't have female energy, you don't know what love is.
That's right.
And so they care, they love, and that's where you get into the Buddha thing, detachment. Women, and I run across the same thing because I have a lot of feminine energy in me, and I was raised more by my grandmother and my mom than my grandfather. And it's just that women have this passion and they care and they love, but that's also their trap. And you
Mhm.
have to you have to learn detachment. And so does the men. I mean, it's just one side has their own issues, right? But in chemistry, the female is the alkaline side. She's the healer. side, believe it or not. And she gets prone to being sucked into that negative energy of the acid side a lot of times. And so, but again, let's go back to the other side of this. Virals are simply, all I can say, a lot of, I've had so many virologists write me and stuff because the idea of a virus is on the negative side. When you realize that cells release these viruses to locate where the body is in trouble at, especially with RNA viruses, it tells the body where to go to fix itself. But so viruses are just little proteins. They're easy to get out of the body. HIV, all these, the herpes types, all easy. Of course, a lot of us ended up with herpes through the smallpox vaccinations,
Right.
and all of that. And so a lot of this is passed on through vaccines. A lot of these viruses, even the HIV, they have a whole story on that. Uh, it's amazing when you start learning truth about this, and it's there's a book written. I can't remember the doctor's name, but it's called The Emerging Virus, and he's traced it all the way to Bethesda Air Force Base, the HIV and the Ebola, and how they were using this for germ warfare experimentation, and how
Wow.
they introduced the HIV through the Hep B vac in certain cities in certain years. It just goes on and on. The corruption that exists on this planet, and the COVID vaccine is one of the biggest ones. And with the graphene oxides and the heavy metals, and we talked about that a little earlier, you and I, about all the blood clots that are
Hmm.
happening from this and the deaths. In America, they just released that 10 children died from the COVID vaccine. Put about 5 more zeros on that. They're liars, and they're trying to cover themselves because the death rate is astronomical. There's a research group looking at 3 countries and already are up to 50 million. So people don't understand why these people just dropped over in the sports field, and why
That's
these people are
right.
just dropping off and just falling dead, and oh, they blame it on this or that. No, 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 no. A very serious. We have a very serious world right now, and to some people, we're overpopulated.
Yes.
You see what's going over in Europe. The freedoms are being cut down. The
Taken away.
UK, your freedom of speech in the UK is next to none right now.
Yep.
Oh, it's getting bad out there. And it's just, you have to learn about these things and protect yourself. And you might think this sounds bizarre, but you're on a warring planet. Like it or
Mm.
not, you're on a warring planet, and you have to get used to that. There's some people that just don't want you here.
Yes, and I want to also add to this because I've spoken at length about HPV, and I've actually interviewed even other doctors like Dr. Tom Cowan, who is a, or at least was, I believe, at the time when I interviewed him, board certified medical doctor, and he speaks against this and against even the idea of viruses even existing because they've never been isolated enough for us to be able to say there is a virus when it's actually always in a pool of other tissues and other things from the cells. But also because we were talking about the entire idea of the emotional body as well as the mental body, so the immense invasiveness of the tests they do on women, like the pap smear, when we and I've said this so many times, the cervix is inside the female body for a reason, to be
Yeah.
protected because it needs to be there. It cannot be exposed to the outside world. And yet we have these really invasive instruments that we don't even know if they've been properly
Right.
sterilized. And even if they have been sterilized, my friends, ladies, we do not want those sterilized instruments that are full of chemicals, which they use to sterilize them with, inside the mucosal, because by and large, that is probably the most absorbent area of the body. While we also use other things like tampons and things of that nature. And when they
Sure.
scrape the cervix, they obviously injure it. And then
Mhm.
is it any wonder? Because first of all, you don't know what they're scraping it with. There's ethylene on those things that they use
Mhm.
to scrape with.
Sure.
So just even that alone, and then we have this whole HPV. And like I said, the Gardasil vaccine that a couple of
Oh
young
my
girls
God.
wrote to me about.
Yeah. Well, the mucosa, which system does it belong to? You only have blood and lymph. So which system does the mucosa? And it lines every part of your body,
That's right.
everywhere. Which system does it belong to? It
Even in the
belongs to
mouth.
It's even in the mouth. Oh yeah, sinuses everywhere.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
belongs to the lymphatic system. The mucosa is not the blood system; it's a lymphatic system. So it's designed to protect you. It produces mucus to protect you. Mucus is lipid based, and
Hmm.
that's all designed to protect you from acids. You'll notice that anything heat producing creates mucus. It's all protective. Milk is extremely mucosic responsive, very mucus forming. And so all this, the body doesn't want chemistry, it'll produce mucus to protect itself. And then just like you said, when you damage a mucosa, the same thing with going in with biopsies and tumors.
Oh,
If you want to be real, assume a tumor has a cancer cell in it. So what? It's in a storage department. You know, all a tumor is a closet. It's simply because it can't get these wastes through the lymph nodes out to the kidneys or through the skin, so it's going to hold it there for you. Easy to open up the kidneys and get those tumors out of you. I've cleaned so many tumors out of people for, like you said, 50 years. It's not even funny. And it's just,
I I
yeah.
know. And so here is the analogy that I give people. And I want to tell a little story speaking of cancer. So my dad had cancer twice. And I remember when he got diagnosed with his first one, he said that he was going to go do a biopsy. And I said, Dad, don't do biopsy because once they puncture that and stuff comes out of it, I said, I can almost guarantee you, and I could say that because he was part of my family, not that I was giving him medical advice, but I had studied enough from you that I said, I can guarantee you're going to get a second cancer. And he said, no, the doctor said, because, old guy, very rooted in his beliefs. So he went to the doctor, they did the biopsy. Subsequent to that, went through their therapies. And then he said, oh, I did a scan first month. It came out clear. I'm cancer free. Second scan, I'm cancer free. Third scan, I'm cancer free. Fourth month comes along and he goes in for a scan. They call him and they said, we found something. And then, of course, he gets diagnosed again with a secondary cancer. And he just started going through the same loop again. Because
Oh,
isn't this what they want? They want you back so that they can
yeah,
actually be able to make
sure.
more money off you. So I try to tell people you have to be able to make decisions about something that you cannot undo, like a biopsy, to taking all information into account because you cannot not have that biopsy once you've had it. You've had it, you've had it. And
Yeah.
the analogy that I was trying to give to my dad, because he was obviously older and he didn't understand, and I had studied, and I said, Dad, imagine that all bad guys get put in jail, right? I said, and they're like in the jail cell and it's locked. I said, because we want to protect the rest of the population, like let's say, children and women or
Right,
whoever, so that these guys don't hurt those people. I said, but
right.
once you open the jail door, I'm like, those guys are not going to want to have their freedom taken away. They don't want to stay locked up. Of course, they're going to want to come out and go and do. And for the most part, what do we see in society? Most people reoffend. So I said,
Yeah,
so the tumor is like a jail cell for the bad cells, and the body just is so smart that it puts all those cells inside the jail cell or inside the tumor to protect you and to protect the rest of the tissues that are clean and going about their business, doing their thing, functioning properly. I said, trust me, Dad, don't do the biopsy. And he was like, nope. And here we go, secondary cancer. And I have other people that I knew
yeah.
that
Oh,
ended
yeah.
up even dying. My dad, God bless him,
Oh,
he's
yeah.
still
Oh,
alive. But
I've got nightmare cases to that. Nightmare cases to biopsies and stuff. But you look at say breast cancer as an example. A woman can come and have the tumor is very pliable and soft and movable. Post biopsy, it becomes hard and red, and now you start to see the decay of the breast tissue, and it's sickening when you see that because these people are kids they have no idea. Now people might take offense to this. The medical world is the top killer of humans on this planet, and
yeah,
you can Google it. They
yeah,
kill millions of people every year for the sake of diseases which they don't know what causes them. They know they're treatable, but and now they use the autoimmune syndrome and things like this, so they can get into chemos for not just cancers, for psoriasis and things like this. They're nuts. They've lost the path of life, and it's easy to understand when you understand you have a sewer system everywhere around every cell in your body. You don't get rid of that sewage. Anybody ever have a toilet overflow in your house and
oh my
understand
goodness,
what that's like?
that's right.
Absolutely. or a septic tank that backs up because of that. Well, your
That's right.
septic tanks in your body are your lymph nodes. And your lymph nodes have bacteria in them to break down waste acids because most cellular acids or waste from the body are 3 pH. Coca-Cola is 2.5 to 2.6 pH, and it'll dissolve meat. So when you're down around these pHs, you start destroying cells. Estrogen is at least up in the fives. So when you're down around 3 pH, you're down in a very destructive acid. Matter of fact, chemo is a 500,000. Just get this. Chemo is a 500,000 to 1,000,000 times hotter than your
Wow.
blood acidically. It's
Wow.
staggering. And how they get away with this, no one in a civilized world would ever allow someone to put an acid in your bloodstream like that at that level. That's insanity because there's no purpose. Their idea is that a cell went bad in tissue and we got to kill that cell so it doesn't affect others. That cell can't affect another cell. It's already out of here. It's the same system that's down that's affecting the other cells. It's the same acidosis in the body that affects these tissues. A cell cannot. I did a video with a 25-year A&P professor, and we were laughing about that they think a damaged cell can come out of tissue, travel against the blood, go into another tissue, scoot over into that tissue, and make other cells cancer cells because they're a cancer cell. That is like kindergarten stuff. I mean, it is insanity. Some
That
of the
is
things
hilarious.
they say. It's just when you really learn the truth, you look at them like, where planet did you get off from?
At least make it make sense from a common sense perspective. I
Yeah.
know. Uh, Dr. Morse, I also wanted to ask you, since we're talking about cancer, immunotherapy,
Oh,
because I know people and I have heard, and I remember, I mean, somebody in my family has done this immunotherapy that was injected directly into the actual tumor itself in his
mm,
body.
mm,
And let's just say that the results of what they were trying to stimulate the immune system, hence the name immunotherapy, were not what they had probably expected that his body would respond.
yeah. Well, years ago, years ago when I started out as a naturopath, I was using different clinics in Mexico. Contreras Clinic is very famous among the Amish and people. They were using immunotherapy way, way back. And they take the blood out, train it, supposedly train your immune cells to attack cancer cells. Your immune cells are already designed to get rid of these cells. They're designed to take care and move these cells. Your lymphocytes are designed to take cells that are damaged to the lymph nodes where you have macrophages that destroy them. Not the bacteria in the lymph nodes, the macrophages, right? So when you can't and the lymph nodes are swollen, your kidneys are backed up, it backs up through the lymph nodes, then to the tissues, then your body can't take these cells to the lymph nodes because the sewer system's backed up. So then monocytes in tissues become macrophages. And that's when you see such an aggressive stance, when you see the tissues going, so to speak, haywire like this. Because your lymph system, to get a tumor, your lymph system has been stagnant for a lot of years. And so when you wake up to a tumor, you're in trouble. I don't care how big or how small it is, you're in trouble. And your sewer system, and chances are your lymph nodes are backed up with it. And that's what's crazy. You know, the best that they come up with, get this, is that they can now take a lymph node. They know that if they destroy or remove a lymph node, you're going to get lymphedema, right? So that means your lymph system is going to back up all through. You're going to get swelling and everything else. You saw that years ago when they removed too many lymph nodes under the arms. Your arm would swell up and you get lymphedema, right? So now they can take a lymph node out of a healthy area and transplant it into a lymphedemic area and fix that area.
No.
But they took the septic tank out of another area, which every lymph node has tissue designed to use it as its elimination. It's like a subdivision. Every house has to get rid of its sewage. And
That's
so
right.
all of it goes into one central place and then off to the city, et cetera, et cetera. And so your body works the same way. It's from the cells to the lymph nodes to the kidneys or skin. Reverse that, it's the kidneys back up, then it backs up to the lymph nodes. And when the lymph nodes back up, then the to the cells can't get rid of their waste anymore. And so after time, you see the word inflammation, and after time, then you see the breaking down the atypical cells, and then what they call the degraded or cancer cells. And that's just that's the cell didn't go haywire. Chemistry does it. Chemistry does everything.
I'd like to take a quick break now to let you know that today's show is sponsored by my book, Against Medical Advice. This book is a memoir, and it tells the story of how I built my life back after suffering a stroke during my divorce. I discuss the nutritional, lifestyle, and mindset aspects that I put into practice to regain my health and rebuild my life. The book has been a labor of love, both writing it and publishing it, and I couldn't be more proud of it. Please pick up your copy from Amazon. For your very own signed copy, my email address is simone@simonegisondi.com. Oh, and I'd really appreciate it if you'd please consider leaving a review once you've read the book. And now, back to the show. So I had one of the worst, and I appreciate what you said about detachment, because I struggle with that, but I have to practice detachment. So I had the worst of the worst consults I ever did was with this young girl who had gotten diagnosed with cancer when she was pregnant. Breast cancer at that. And they gave her chemotherapy while she was pregnant. And then, subsequent to that, she gives birth to the baby. She was just beside herself. I mean, just emotionally, she was destroyed because she was so worried about her baby. So that alone was working against her. And then she has surgery, and she tells me that they actually removed a whole bunch of lymph nodes. And then she says that after this removal of all these lymph nodes, which obviously are the axillary here, she gets diagnosed with cancer near the termini, which is right here where we have other lymph nodes. So I tried to explain to her, I said, the lymphatic system is like a highway. I said, so if you close the road, if you shut it down, I said, don't you think that the path from up here is going to get congested, and there's going to be like traffic, for lack of a better term, if we're going to use the analogy of highway. So clearly now everything here is going to get inflamed. But of course, like they looked at lymph nodes that were inflamed or now, stagnant and all that. And it's, well, what is it? It's cancer. Of course it's cancer, because what else can it be? So
I can't tell you how many females I've had with breast cancer that they removed all the lymph nodes. In the earlier days, they just stripped your underarms fluid.
yes.
And guess what? That same lymph bed feeds the lungs. So how many have I had that had the lymph nodes removed, and it come to me with lung cancer?
Yep.
I've had them with 5 babies. I had a lady with 5 babies, young woman. I couldn't save her. By the time she heard about me, she could hardly breathe. And of course, there's nowhere. We're not magical. There's nowhere. Once they cut out your path, just like you said, perfect analogy. Once they cut out the highway, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. Your body can't magically just dissipate this fluid. This is a major fluid of the human body. Major. Like I got
a better one for you, Dr. Morse. There was another girl. So when I went, after I studied with you, I did an internship at this integrative clinic, cancer clinic. And I wanted to do a study. So I did a study where I interviewed women, mostly women, because it's mostly women that I work with. And I start talking with this woman who had breast cancer, much like what you said. I think a lot of the grief that women have leads to the breast cancers and the lung cancers, as well as obviously reproductive cancers. So I speak with her, and she's just this very energetic, and a positive thinker, very optimistic. And I start speaking with her, and she says that she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and she had of course, at the advice of the doctors, they took out, much like what you said, her lymph nodes. And then they said, well, it's back, so now we're going to do a double mastectomy. So they cut off both her breasts. So she said, she goes, at that time, I was so happy because I thought, well, if the cancer was in the breasts and I cut the breast and I cut the cancer, therefore I'm good. And I said, but that's not how it works. I said, because cancer doesn't just come in the breast from the sky and you cut off the breast and cancer goes with it. I said, cancer is actually because there's so much toxicity in the body that the body's not eliminating and you're adding to it. I said, and if you did any of the stuff, even just the fact that they did the surgery on you and they gave you anesthetic, that's very toxic. And your immune system is now obviously like broken because you cut off the lymph nodes and now the immune system is just stunted, for lack of a better term. And she's, wait. She goes, I'm not done. She goes, and this is what crushed me because after they cut my breasts, she goes, on one of my scans, they said that there's something on my bone, on one of my,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
on one of her ribs. And I said, oh my God, I said, this is exactly what I want you to understand, that when you cut off an organ, a tissue out of the body, because it has cancer in it, you don't get rid of the cancer. I said, oftentimes it comes back with a vengeance. And I even said to her, I said, and I implore you, do research. If they're going to offer you any kind of radiation or chemo, do research. It's even on PubMed, Dr. Morse. They show that when you do chemotherapy and or radiation, it's sometimes, the way they said, it sometimes leads to metastasis. Well, why would you do something that's going to run the risk of metastasis when you're looking to heal somebody?
So if you're a listener, I'll say just two things on this, both important. When you're dealing with the females or even the males, but when you're dealing with emotions, why is that linked to cancers? And it goes right to what we talked about earlier. You suppress your adrenal glands, you suppress your kidneys. You suppress your kidneys, which are the eliminative organs of your sewer system, then your sewer system backs up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing is, best I can tell all of your listeners, they try to get you to think that cancer is a monster with its own awareness and it's traveling through you to kill you and to get cells. That's as stupid as you can freaking get. Cells are in their tissues. The system that deals with the elimination of acid waste out of the body is the system that's down, the lymphatic system. That's why they call everything lymphomic. And it's that system. When it's down in your breast, it's down in your whole breast. And a lot of women have a precursor to that, fibrocystic breasts. And so there's a lot of precursors that let people know that they're in serious trouble lymphatically. Right. And it's the lymph system that is touching everywhere. When your lymph system's down, your kidney is not filtering on the right side of your body. It's not filtering from the top of your head to your toe. Your genetic weaker areas is the ones that get them first. I have to tell you, wherever you're genetically weak in tissue, those are the tissues that have more blood and lymphatic problems, always. And that's where you see the coagulation. However, the GI tract, because man has so much protein in his diet, is where the lymph system backs up the most. This is why you see so much IBS, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, and stuff like this. This is acids in the wall interstitially that's breaking down the tissues. And that's all you have to understand. It's simple to understand. You open up your lymphatic system, you'll pull the tumors clean, you'll open up all the doorways, the pathways, and you don't have to worry about damaging more cells. But cells don't go traveling around looking for other cells to make them cancer. They live in a world that children don't even live in. And I don't know why. They must think all humans are stupid, because it is ridiculous, some of the crap they come up with, scaring humans that your cancer's moving, metastasized to you. No, the same system that caused the first breakdown of tissue, and you've done nothing but add to that system since you use chemotherapy. Chemotherapy is not held by the blood, or you're dead. You know, the blood becomes acidic. You got maybe 3-4 minutes to live. So the blood passes it off to where? There's only one other fluid, and that's the lymphatic system. That's why it's lipid-based. And so that even stresses the lymph system even more. So that just shuts down things even more. So you're prone to all that whole side, right or left, or both after a while. And then it's just, like I say, weaker areas go first.
So for people that are facing cancer, Dr. Morse, or even major degeneration, let's call it, what is the most important thing to understand about their body's ability to heal itself, because it can heal itself?
All right. The first thing you do is pee in a jar and make sure you're filtering. Most people are not filtering. Their urines are clear. And so you've got to get your kidneys to open up. And that works with the adrenal glands on top and your kidneys. And I've created herbs for that, but also fruit opens up the kidneys and adrenal glands. So we automatically put you on an all fruit diet. We
Yeah.
put you mostly on grapes, but I'm notorious for putting you on 2 or 3 months of fruit because fruit is not only the highest electrical energy, it's neurological sugars. Yale, I think you've seen my latest videos where Yale came out and said that the brain converts glucose to fructose. That's converting an inferior simple sugar to a superior simple sugar, meaning that the Homo sapien requires fructose for neurological function. That's fruits and berries. You know what? So I put everybody on a raw diet 100% and try to get them all on fruit because fruit is also astringent. It starts astringing the tissues. So if you looked at detoxification, the word for detoxification is simple: hydration. Hydration can only happen when you're in the alkaline side of chemistry. That's an electron dominant side of chemistry. You're dehydrated on the acid side of chemistry. And most people are severely interstitially, that's around all the cells, are
That's right.
dehydrated. You can't just drink a little water and think you're hydrated. And if you drink Gatorade, Gatorade's pH is 2.65.
Oof,
It's
and it's
a
full of sugar.
major dehydrator.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all you're doing is hydrating the body and astringing the body. But we work on the kidneys and the lymphatic system through botanicals. We also go after all your endos, especially you talk about depression related to the parathyroid,
Yeah.
because poor women that have parathyroid weakness, they start having babies. The babies, of course, are going to suck the calcium out of mama. Mama can't put it back because she has a parathyroid weakness. You start losing her teeth and bones. It falls into postpartum depressions. And then the baby's not going to utilize calcium. So there goes its structures. And so it's a crazy thing. And medical people, they don't oblivious. They have no clue to any of this.
No,
It's,
because I remember I actually went through the post because obviously this was so much before I met you or I met your work. And my doctor put me on Zoloft,
yeah, there you go. I mean,
which
it's
was the
insane.
worst, most horrible thing because I
Yeah,
remember as a mom, before I went on the Zoloft, I remember just how much I loved this child. And then the Zoloft, which I took for a little bit of time, I think 3 months or so, I went so numb that I would look at my baby and I'm like, why am I not feeling what I was feeling before?
yeah,
It's like a zombie.
yeah.
It scared the bejesus
Oh,
out of me,
man.
just how much it altered my very being.
This lady, her name is Andrea Yates, and this was years ago. She
Oh, I
drowned
remember
five
that.
of her babies,
Yeah.
and she claimed that God told her to drown her babies or the devil was going to get them. If you look at her, she is so wrinkled up, and immediately I said, she's got major parathyroid issues,
Yeah.
right? And they didn't know how to fix her. And we know how to fix people like this. And we have a school that the classes are cheap. And just like you attended this school, you learn
Yeah.
what causes these things. And now you're self empowered to fix yourself. You don't rely on these goons that know nothing. They wear their nice white coats and stethoscopes. I spent years in hospitals with cardiac work, so I know them well. Got friends that are medical doctors. But you have to be careful. If they talk about diseases, it's a fallacy. There is no such thing as diseases. There's cause and effect. I live in the real world of science. I'm a chemist and a physicist. I love both sides. There's always a cause for every effect. They just treat symptomology because they don't realize the cause. We go after the cause, and then there's the effect is gone. You treat the effect, a lot of times that kills you.
Yeah, and I wanted for you, Dr. Morse, to explain to people why do you, I mean, I want the audience to understand why is fruit the most powerful tool for detoxification and for regeneration? Because that's important.
That's funny because if you go to our site, drmorses.tv, we show you how I took that toe, which is just tissue. They're going to cut the toe off. We rebuilt the toe, the connective tissue, the toenail, the bone, just on fruit. Of course, we did use herbs, but fruit is the most regenerative electrical food on the planet. It is especially designed for man's nervous system. Excuse me. And the proof, Yale finally proved why I'm so successful with neurological cases because I use fruit only. I'll give you a classic example. We had an MS patient. She was 43 years old, ambulance brought her into my clinic. She was stiff on a stretcher. She couldn't hardly move her head to say hi, Robert. And so I put her all on fruit. People go, oh my God. In 2 months, 2.5 months, she started sitting up, wheeling herself, feeding herself, and she could help herself transfer. Well, I said, honey, because I'm an old farm boy, we had horses and everything. And I said, well, I'm going to put you on some alfalfa, get some muscle on you because you're really, really thin. So I put her on green drinks and I think maybe a salad every other day or something. Guess what happened to her? She went back and couldn't move anymore.
Wow.
And I realized that the fruit was the only level that I could regenerate neurological conditions with. And that's why it's so important. That's why we get quads and paraplegics out of their chairs. We start getting that electrical system all tied back together again. And it's just cool to see it. But fruit is the highest electrical and full of chemistry. It doesn't have the proteins that vegetables do, but we're not horses or elephants or cows. You brought that out. The size difference is obvious, right?
Yep.
And we're not omnivores. We're not dogs, hogs, bears, or chickens. So we're none of these. We're frugivores. We're primate-ish. And there's a known, Dr. Walker's work has went back 20 million years to prove that not only the hominids, the Homo erectus, but the Homo sapien are all a frugivore species.
Yes, and Dr. Morse, I want you to explain to people so that they can understand it. I try to explain it too. So whenever people get sick, I tell them, I'm like, you are now detoxifying. But we have the medical community that calls it sickness.
Yeah.
And I try to tell people, it's like, I always kind of liken it to giving birth. I said, the magic is at the very end after you go through labor, which hurts, the pregnancy is uncomfortable, the birth itself is super painful, but then the magic is right at the end. And I want people to understand that detoxification is not that you start eating fruits and then all of a sudden you just magically feel better. There is a process where the body has to eliminate and it doesn't feel comfortable, but that is part of the process. That is part of the journey to healing. And I want people to understand, because I think a lot of people get scared when they get to certain levels. And I've heard some of the stuff that you said about, especially about the guy who was a butcher.
Yeah.
Remember the butcher story? And the guy who jumped out of a plane and his parachute didn't open. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so two things. The first part, real quick, is that a woman that eats raw foods that's highly alkaline, her birth will not be painful, and her monthly cycles will not be painful, and she'll basically spot. The cleaner the uterine wall is, the less she has menses. The more toxic of the lymphatic system is in the uterine wall. Like if you have endometriosis, you're going to have very painful and bloody menses. But once you clean that up, it goes the other way.
Yeah.
So that was the first part of that. I forgot. What was the second question?
So the second question is about why detoxification feels
okay.
sickness.
So here's an example. So I grew up milk drinking, right? And milk is very mucus forming. So I had to use nose drops to breathe. We're just so congesting to the sinuses, the lungs, feel full of mucus, your voice box and all full of mucus. So when you start alkalizing, this hydrates. And as you hydrate, all this mucus starts breaking up. Think about acids that glomulate, alkaline chemistry opens up.
Yeah.
And so everything that's stored in you starts coming out. Old injuries can start hurting again because you never healed. You cannot regenerate tissue or heal properly when the body's acidic. Under the acid side of chemistry, there's no regeneration because it's corrosive. Regeneration can only happen in an alkaline medium. And alkaline is only found in fruits, berries, melons, and vegetables. That's it.
Yeah.
Most of your grains, you might argue millet and quinoa is somewhat alkaline, but most everything else is really acidic. So unless you're eating a raw food diet like this, you start developing acidosis. And all your weaknesses, your genetics can come back out on you. And I hear a quick example. My first patient ever was from New York City, a young female. She came into my clinic and she said, look, all my fingernails fell off. And I go, your fingernails fell off? She said, yeah. I said, well, what have you been doing? She said, well, I'm from New York. She said, I heard about this yoga ashram in the Bahamas that offers raw food eating and cleaning and meditation.
I went to that.
Did you?
Well, I did. Loved it.
She did. She went down there and she went all raw, all fruit, and did all the meditation and everything, and her fingernails fell off. And I asked her, I said, they were never strong nails, were they? I said, they were always ridged or brittle. And she said, well, yeah. And I said, that's why. I said, your body gets rid of its weaknesses. And then I helped her grow back. I mean, her fingernails were wicked. They looked like they were fake. And she came in one day and she said, look at my fingernails. And I go, well, you using fake ones? She said, no, these are my real nails. And I said, there you go. So we fix those areas that are weak in you. But when you said it right on, when you start opening up and hydrating, all this mucus, all this stuff comes out of your bowels, comes out of your urine, comes out of your nose, your throat, you hawk up mucus. You can have a matter of fact, the old saying, where I'm from in Indiana, they used to say, don't go out in the cold, you'll catch a cold.
Oh, yes.
I'm going, how do you catch a cold? Bacteria is not active in zero weather, right? But cold weather is alkaline. And any alkaline, whether it's weather or whatever, even in alkaline emotions, you start detoxifying. You start eliminating the waste and the acids out of your body. And you want to see that, but the medical doctor has no clue. They don't live in any world that has common sense to it. So they have no clue when you have symptomology, cold and flu, a little fever. Why would you have a fever? Well, what's your largest eliminative organ? Oh, your skin. And why do you sweat? Oh, elimination. All these health spas get you to sweat. Why do they get you to sweat for? To eliminate waste. And so to make you healthier. And it's just all tied together. But for some reason, they can't seem to tie these things together. And so everything, even fevers are bad for you. No, they're not. And babies are definitely going to go into high fevers. They love 104, 105. Easy to keep them cooled down. But your body is going to eliminate its waste. I've seen black stuff come out of babies before. Black nasty stuff come out of their bowels, stuff like that. Oh yeah.
And it's so sad, Dr. Morse,
Yeah.
because I see so many young, especially babies, but I see parents that give these Tylenols and all of that stuff to babies who have fevers. And I remember one time I was on a plane and this woman was giving that to her child. And I asked her, I said, you have to give that to your baby again in 4 hours. I'm like, have you ever wondered why? And she said, no. And I said, well, clearly, if that was going to heal your baby, you would give it to your baby once and it would be done and over with and your baby's healed. I said, but it means that you're just suppressing the symptom, which is the actual fever. I said, but do you know why the fever comes? And she said, no, actually, I guess because my son's sick. And I said, but the fever is because the body is so intelligent. It turns up the temperature to kill whatever it's trying to kill. I said, and what you're doing is you're going to the baby's body and saying, no, 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 don't kill it, don't kill it. Like, take a break, take a break. I said, and you're giving that Tylenol, which stops the body from doing what it's naturally inclined to do, which is to heal, to get rid of the
elimination.
pathogen.
Elimination is healing.
Yes.
You have to eliminate because people don't realize they're coagulated. They're backed up. And so the body's going to open up, and unless the kidneys are helping you, the skin is going to make up for it. And if you close down your thyroid, you close down your skin, you lock your skin down and you lock your kidneys down, you're in deep trouble. You're not eliminating any waste to the outside world, and wastes are acidic. I can sit here talking to you, working my muscle here, creating lactic acid. Now, question is, can I move that acid out? Because if I can't, I'm going to lose my elbow.
Yeah.
And it's just bodybuilders. I get bodybuilders in here. I used to work with the Mr. Olympians, and because we have formulas for them, because of that, they have high proteins, a high acidic diets. They all fall into RA, rheumatoid arthritis, or arthritises because all the proteins are leaching calcium. All their activity is producing acids they can't get rid of. And you don't get rid of acid waste, it's going to blow back on you. And the word you see is called inflammation. Inflammation isn't a disease. It's your body's immune response to acidosis, and it'll bring in more blood. It's a histamine response. It's a cholesterol response. It's a demic response. The body will start holding water. I remember I had this 18-year-old patient, and she could gain 5 to 10 pounds of weight taking a shower.
Oof.
And I said, did your brain corrode on your skin? She said, well, yeah. I said, well, look how acidic you are. I mean, these are serious things, and yet people can't help them. Medical doctors that live in a world far, far away or something.
I also wanted to ask you, Dr. Morse, because I promised my especially some of my female clients, the medical world loves to pathologize what women go through as menopause, which is the transition season between being fertile to obviously shutting down the factory, if you will. And I try to tell as many women as I can that it's not a disease to have perimenopause or menopause for that matter, and that you activate so many spiritual gifts as women. When you shut one thing down, another thing opens. But I want women to understand from a clinical perspective and from a obviously naturopathic perspective, why do we pathologize it and run to take exogenous hormones to be able to mitigate some of the things that the body is feeling or is deficient in? And I'm talking about really
Sure.
well respected doctors
Sure. I
that
get it.
say take bioidentical,
Oh, no.
and in large part, it's because I guess the body stops producing its own. And one of the things, and please correct me if I'm wrong in this assumption, but I tell women, I said, no doctor on planet Earth knows your bioidentical uniqueness and your biochemical uniqueness. And in that regard, how would they know what ratios of what hormones your particular body needs at a particular time of the month or on a daily basis or
Yeah.
monthly or yearly as you transition to that? Because only your body knows that.
Sure. You were in my live class, and I've had live classes for what, 30 years or so.
Yeah.
And at one live class, I had five medical doctors. Two, a man and wife team, were that's what they did in their life was recommend bioidentical steroids and hormones. And I got done with talking with them. They realized one common saying that I have: you take them, your body quits making them. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're losing estrogen or whatever or progesterone, what's the problem? And you have to go to your endocrine glands and look at the problem. If you're young and you're low in steroids, it's your adrenal glands. You got to fix your adrenal glands. You don't take the hormone or steroid, or you'll lose your adrenal glands. It's like taking some progesterone, even. Progesterone is the alkaline side of chemistry, and estrogen is the acidic side of chemistry, obviously. And so when you see that whole thing, and of course, the menses and that whole cycle shows you the interaction of acids and alkalis, because progesterone comes in after estrogen gets you bleeding. Then you have progesterone. If you conceive, the placenta becomes mainly progesterone. And then you have women out there eating their placenta to get the progesterone. No, 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 no. If you're not producing adequate amounts of hormones or steroids, you make your glands healthy. And another thing is we have so many women that couldn't conceive or carry to term. And the problem is always their pituitaries. We fix their pituitaries, and you see them probably on our Facebook sites and stuff. All these women with these beautiful babies now, they couldn't conceive at all, and all we did was fix their endocrinology. And if you're going into premenopause early, it's your pituitary. Some women are born short; they can't conceive at all. They don't need to use birth control because they can't get pregnant at all. That's your pituitary. Fix your pituitary and watch what happens. You've got to fix things. And these glands go weak by acidosis, by your lymphatic system suppressing its function, because every gland is every gland is made of what? Cells. I go to your ovaries, cells and two fluids. I go to your adrenal glands, cells and two fluids. I go to your thyroid, cells and two fluids. Everywhere I go, your liver, pancreas, everywhere I go, I find a bunch of cells that create the organ or gland. And then I find the blood is the kitchen and the sewer system, the lymph, everywhere we go. And that's essential. And when you see the suppression of a cell, it isn't blood that suppresses, it's acids that suppress. And you can always go to a stagnant lymphatic system. And you mentioned the word iridology. That's the science where you can see all this happen. And you can see your lymphatic system. There's no other science that does that. So we have a class on that, you know that. And it teaches you how to read your eyes, your children's eyes.
Yeah.
Fun stuff to learn, because now you can see where your genetics are, you can see your glands, you can see your lymphatic system, and you can do something about it, because your eyes will change as you fix your body. It's all so cool and so much fun. But you learn why things happen as a female. And you can blame whatever medical doctors want to blame, but simply you're losing the function of your endocrinology. And you can fix all that. But at a certain time, you're going to go through that. But I've seen 68-year-old women conceive.
Actually, when I was at your class back in 2016, there was a girl who was there, woman, lady, whatever you want to call her. And she had actually taken your female formula and she had had a baby well in her 40s, like in her towards the late, I think she
Yeah,
was 47, if I'm not mistaken. And she obviously she heard about you and she was there studying because she was able to get pregnant doing
yeah,
what you were doing. And I
yeah.
told her when I met her, I said, this is exactly why I'm here because I healed from a stroke from Dr. Morse and everything he teaches.
Well, we've had the other too. We've had ladies on birth control pills taking the female reproductive to strengthen their ovaries and uterus and conceive on birth control pills. So I knew that herbs were stronger than the birth control pills they were on, and but some weren't real happy about it. But I didn't know it at the time that would take place like that. But
Yes, all the time. I'm sure there's
no,
probably thousands of cases. You don't even know how many people you've helped, Dr.
oh
Morse.
God, oh
Like
yeah,
hundreds of thousands, millions of people.
we've had a lot of fun. We had a clinic
Yes.
in Portugal. We had fun in Portugal. We've had fun around the world. We've been all over the place. But it's fun to see people get their life back because I do videos every week and I
Yep.
read I read your question and answers online, and sometimes I start crying just
Yes.
thinking of just reading them because it's sad to me to see the condition that humans have got themselves into, and the medical world is partly responsible. And they lead you down this rabbit hole sometimes you can't hardly get out of. And that's where you start having serious troubles. You remove lymph nodes, better think again. You can't remove, you can fix. You can always fix things. You can rebuild things, rebuild the human body, remove tumors out of it, rebuild genetic weaknesses. That's what I'm into, genetic remembering of cells. We can always do those things, but not if you start removing things. Now, we did get one lady's thyroid to grow back after a thyroidectomy. So we did get that happen. And the liver always grows back. And so we can get some tissue to regrow, but you got to be really strict and good on these
Yes,
areas.
indeed. And that's
Yeah.
where most people can do it. Now, Dr. Morris, in closing, I have three questions, and these are so important. Number one, the future of natural healing. I really want to get your take on it because you have been such a prolific, you shaped the world of natural healing, literally, especially at a time like this. And it's a good time to be alive to see that what does not serve humanity is crumbling right in front of our eyes. So that's a good thing. But I want to know your take on the future of natural healing and what the next generation needs. And also, lastly, because I have a lot of peers in this space, what your advice to practitioners like myself is.
I think that our role is vital to the human race for the future.
Absolutely.
And I think there's been so much negative movement into the world right now from all the sources, as you know, the world order, all of this. But you also have us coming, and a lot of us from a lot of different levels that are positive and more God people. So I used to feel that, you know, the negative was going to succumb and take over this world. But I do feel that the more of us that get out there that teach people the truth, the better and the stronger we become. Because the negative forces are strong. And then you see
Yes.
it in America really bad. It's just fighting like nobody's business.
Oh,
And you're going to
yes.
see that. And it could even get a little worse. And then you got the alien issues. You got a lot of issues where beings have already been here. You've got things I probably shouldn't talk about on air. You've got things out there that a lot of people don't understand that freak out when you talk about them, but you got to be aware that there's other beings all over this physical universe. And we've been visited a lot. Now you see with this administration, you see more of this coming out, more of this coming out, and it won't be long you're going to see the contact because I did radio shows for years. We've already been talking to people that have been in communications.
Yeah.
So, it's just a matter of time with that. But hopefully, we can maintain that higher awareness of truth. And I always feel truth wins out. I'm one of those naive
Absolutely.
spiritual guys, and you are too, and we're
Absolutely.
just there. But without people learning and stepping up and willing to learn and put back their conditioned mind, your mind is a conditioned instrument. Put the mind apart. And I give your listeners a challenge. Stop thinking. Can you spend one day? I've got it on TikTok. Can you spend one day not thinking, just observing? And when a thought comes in, stop it and just be the observer for that day. You'll start learning that you're so much more than the mind. Your mind is conditioned, and people condition you for money. You know that. I mean, look at the medical profession has conditioned the human race to think that chemotherapy is okay, that putting a 1.5 to 2 pH acid in your blood is okay. I mean, that's insanity. That would be criminal and murder charges in some places. You don't do that, and yet they do that with pure confidence in that, and do it to our babies. When I see a female oncologist, my heart just drops because I know there's a woman that's lost her womanhood, because women represent the love, the compassion, the healing. The women are the healers. The men are the acid warriors, workers, whatever, the male principle. And so it's just that when you see a male that has a lot of female in him, that's a good man.
Yes. I know that's why you're a healer, Dr. Morse, because your feminine energy is flowing and you are here to help us heal. And we are so grateful to you.
I love the female side.
And I know that the energy medicine and the ability for us to understand the body from a completely different perspective rather than just how the medical world shows it to us or portrays it is exactly what will take healing to the next level in the future. And what would you say to other practitioners like myself? I really want them to hear your message.
I say, don't give up.
Yes.
I mean, you have some clients or patients that you can't help. You have some you can only take them so far.
Yeah.
But that's like being a Johnny Appleseed. Realize that these are souls on journeys. And whatever you educate that soul, they don't forget. You're talking to a being that's beyond the mind, beyond these levels. So they might not be able to work through their mental and emotional apparatus in this lifetime, but maybe next lifetime. So what you do today can open up these beautiful beings in the future. So nothing ever is for nothing. You know what? So if you have someone that's hard to work with, give them love, and let them make their own choice, because you can't change them. But don't get pulled into them. And one thing I can say about healers is if you care too much, it's going to hurt you. You can't care too much because you're on your own journey. Every one of you are alone. You're born alone, you live alone, and you pass this world alone. So spend time alone with yourself and enjoy the fact that you have awareness and get understanding that awareness is not thought. And if you can break the chain of thought, you will then understand what consciousness and what God is, because there's only the one. And each and every one of you come out of that one.
That's right. Yep. That's right.
And we're just in creation where duality exists, and we have infinite forms. Break down the forms, and everyone becomes the one again.
Yes. We all return back to source.
Yep. Always.
Oh my goodness. So every once in a while, a conversation awakens something inside of us. And I hope you, my amazing listeners, I hope that you felt the transmission of what this amazing healer has brought, and that you are reminded that healing is simple and divinely guided. And of course, always available the moment that we stop obstructing the body.
And I say, women, take your power back. Don't take your power back. You are an individual like anybody else. Take your power back. Don't fall for that. Don't let someone use your emotions. No. Become strong. Empower yourself. Get to know yourself, and don't give away yourself. Never give away yourself, because you can love intently, but don't give yourself away with that, because then someone else will control you, and then you're totally controlled. There goes your emotions. There goes your lymphatic system. There comes the tumors. Here comes all the other things that we know to be true when that lymph system backs up. And so, all I can say is take your power back, be the individual that you are, but give love. I give love. I hug everybody. I give everybody a bear hug, but I know who I am.
Yes, you do. I remember you did that when I was there in class. I have pictures with you.
Yeah.
Dr. Morse, thank you so much for being the lighthouse in the dark. Like, not just for me, because I know that you touched me in such a profound way, but for others that just even watch your videos and learn from you, because you give so freely. And Thank you for being a rebel in a world
Oh,
of noise, and especially in the medical world, and a keeper
oh,
of the ancient healing truth that you share so
oh,
generously.
thanks,
Thank you
thanks,
so much.
thanks. Watch
Um,
your dreams because you never know who might come to you in those dreams.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. And so all of you guys listening out there, remember that your body knows how to heal itself. Your
Absolutely,
cells know how to heal themselves. Your soul
absolutely.
knows how to guide all of that healing. And this is your permission to just empower yourself, like Dr. Morse just said. Empower yourself, stand in your power, be sovereign, and go home to yourself, to who you are, to your true, authentic self.
Yep. And one more word of wisdom: you don't have a soul. You are the soul.
You are the soul. And your
Yep.
body lives inside
Right.
the soul, not
You
the other
don't
way.
have a higher self. You are the higher self.
That's right.
So just don't identify with your lower self. Learn how to become that which is who you really are. And then your life is full of joy and happiness. You don't have to let your physical condition rule you. Don't let your pain rule you. Don't let your physical body rule you. Don't let your emotions rule you or your thoughts rule you. You're greater than all the above.
And I also tell people, don't identify. This is why I'm so selective in how I even speak about the stroke that, I experienced. Don't put I next to a disease, because through that connection,
Really.
you make an energetic tie. Don't do that. Don't identify with it. Don't say, I am a smoker. Smoking is something you do, it's not something you are. Don't say, I'm a cancer survivor. I cringe when I
Right.
hear that.
Right.
I
That's a
cringe when
good
I
word.
hear that.
I do too. I do too. Remember, the physical world is a world of chemistry. When you see a symptom,
That's
it's
right.
all based in chemistry, and don't pull yourself into it. Just realize that these are the natural laws of the universe at work. And when you break those laws, you pay a price. Just because you didn't know better, learn. And that's why we have our International School of the Healing Arts. The classes are cheap and learn. They're cheap. And just like you said, you learn what causes everything and you're empowered. And that's what my gig is, to empower each and every one of you guys to be strong again and to take back your rights of consciousness and awareness. And there's a lot of fun to have out of body experiences. There's a lot of fun to be happy and joyful. You don't have to be sad and oh, poor me and all that. Grab your power back. Don't let anyone else control you.
Especially from the outside. Yes. And I remember I started kind of dabbling into the Monroe Institute because you mentioned it in one of your videos back
Oh,
in the
yeah.
day. So that's another, but I would love to have you back so we could talk just about that, because you did
Oh,
mention something
yeah.
so important in the beginning. How
It
you,
is.
when you started detoxifying and you were eating just oranges, you couldn't stay in your body. So I had something like
Oh,
that
yeah.
that I did during the time of COVID when they had us locked in. And I said, well, I have nothing but time on my hands and I don't have to be anywhere. So I might as well do. So I
Yeah.
started fast. I did a really, really, I mean, a fast, like no fast. I think I went for about 11 days with no water and no food. And I couldn't stay inside my skin. It was crazy. And
I, I
yeah,
have a I have a TikTok challenge out there. You can see it on TikTok, and that is how to have out of body experiences. And I teach you how to have out of body experiences. Real simple, real easy. And so learn how to have an out of body experience, just moving your attention away from your physical body. And you will learn things and feel it'll change you forever and make you more of a super person.
I'll tell you. So yes, and especially like through your studies, and I'm gonna link all of your channels and every single piece of information related to your work and your school and the botanicals that you sell in the show notes. But I want people to know that I think, aside from the fact that I healed my physical body, which was obviously important because I had young kids and I wasn't ready to go, but I think the most important thing was Dr. Morse. I remember how I thought, especially because I watched thousands of hours of your stuff on YouTube, and I thought, oh my God, we could heal from anything. So all
Yeah,
of a sudden, the
absolutely.
idea of cancer no longer had such a scary connotation. The idea of heart disease was like, oh, okay, that could be reversed, that could be reversed. And that there's such a component of what we as souls have when we decide. We have so much power as to when we decide that we want to leave, this realm, rather than when a doctor says, oh, well, your sewer system is backed up, so you're going to
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
It's
If
so
someone says to
important.
you, Yeah, if someone says to you disease, what do you say? Lymphatic. If someone says to you cancer, what do you say? Lymphatic.
That's
And
right.
you understand that lymphatic is acid. And it starts linking you to the simplicity of this whole thing, and then you'll learn. You can't depend upon others. You've got to learn yourself, and that's the fun of it. Growing and learning, and setting yourself free. That you have the power to fix anything that goes on in your world, and also the power to grow and become more awake and more aware. Fun stuff.
Well, yeah, the body is yours. It was given to you. You were entrusted with it. I tell people that all the time. I mean, you have
Mhm.
full control over what goes on with your consciousness. You dictate everything that happens in the body, and your body listens. Your
Yeah,
cells listen. Your cells are there to do the work. No problem.
right. Because you can't, if you identify with your physical body too much, you lock yourself to your body. It's
Yeah,
like you're too emotional. You lock yourself. There's an old saying that your desires bind you
yeah.
to the object of your desires. Your thoughts bind you to the object of your thoughts. And so unbind yourself, and you'll find a freedom that it gives you ecstasy and joy. That's all I can say.
So true. Dr. Morse, it has been the honor of my career to speak
Thank
with
you.
you today. Thank you so much for every life that you've ever touched, including
Uh,
mine, and for every life that you've healed, including mine. Thank you
Love
so
you guys.
much. I would love to have you back. I'll get in touch with your assistant to have you back
Okay.
for a more in depth conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you so much for joining me on Health Confidential, where healing is more than just symptom relief. It's a return to the body's original blueprint, guided by truth, intuition, and cellular intelligence. If today's episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And follow me on Instagram at simone.gisondi for daily insights, behind the scenes wisdom, and holistic inspiration. To explore working with me and to get your own custom made healing protocol, visit simonegisondi.com and book your private consultation to start working together. Remember, your body is sacred, your intuition is gold, and healing is your birthright. I'm Simone Gisondi, and this has been Health Confidential. See you in the next episode.